Hey, good Tuesday afternoon. So, very important topic today, especially in the States right now with the election season ramping up and finding ourselves in the most poignant time in human history, in my perspective. So, when we are witnessing our enemies, our adversaries, doing what they're doing, saying what they're saying, and having a feeling of absolute no control over what they do and say. We are helpless. We are 100% powerless over people doing and saying whatever they're going to be doing and saying, right? And quite often, or sometimes, it has a direct impact in our lives. And yet we feel powerless. We feel then frustration, anger, dismay, sadness, depression. I mean, there's all sorts of different ways that we respond to facing things that we don't seem to have a say in. So I want to talk a little bit about two things with this. One, do we actually have a say in some form or fashion so that we can dictate our future and how we want it and choose it to be in the face of anything? And I say, oh, yes, we do. And we have a lot more power to influence our lives in the midst of what we're powerless over than you may realize. And to me, this is the holy grail of distinctions because there's so much that we don't have any control over. Other people out there, people who influence our lives, the politicians, our family members, our parents, our kids, our teachers, our bosses, our social media thread, comments from other people. It goes on and on and on and on and on. And on one level, we have absolutely no say in any of that stuff. We're powerless, absolutely. And so a common thing to then experience when we are facing something that we have no control over is a strong emotional reaction of anger, frustration, angst. And then when we take that anger and suddenly we turn it inside, we feel like a victim and can't do anything about it, it can lead to depression and other things. So what do we do about that? And do we actually have a say? In the midst of our powerlessness, where is our power? And so the most important distinction that I want you to consider right now, and it might hit you from left field, it might make sense to you instantly or something in between. But I want you to consider that there's a distinction here that can make all the difference in the world. The distinction is there's what's happening in the situation with it, and then there's how I view it and judge it and how I feel about it. There's a difference. There's a huge difference. And if you can make that distinction, here's what's happening, what I call the data, and then here's how I feel about it, here's what my mind is giving me about it. If you can make that distinction, to make all the difference in the world. That's step one. When we're facing things that we have absolutely no power to influence. And again, there are so many things that we have absolutely no say in, right? Jerks being jerks, delusional people being delusional, mean people being mean. There's so much that we don't have any direct control over. And so, yes, does it make sense to feel anger and frustration or sadness, depression, or whatever a reaction that's a sense of helplessness? Yeah, it makes perfect sense, right? But I'm going to tell you that that is only part of the picture. That we actually do, and this is not just a philosophical idea, this is actually provable, and I ask for you to not believe anything that I say, but prove it, verify it for yourself, by all means, right? It's important to experience things and to see things for ourselves and to not listen to anybody outside ourselves, including myself, necessarily. So, but consider this. Is it true that even if you are in a powerless situation, you do have a say ultimately in how you're going to respond and what you're going to make it mean and what you're going to do with it? Like the COVID thing, call it the COVID wave, devastating in many different levels. And at the same time, do I have a say in how I respond to things and what it means for me? Oh, yes, I do. Oh, yes, I do. In a huge way. For example, my business, what I do right now, talk to people about nature of the mind, how it gets in the way from us doing our thing to the fullest, and how to free ourselves up from it. That's what we're talking about right now, is what's going on. And then there's what my mind is doing with it. That distinction, absolutely critical. Then the next step is to realize, what is my mind doing with this stuff? And how can I, here's the tricky thing, quote unquote, change my mind. And I'm going to say something a little radical right now. I can't change my mind. My mind has a mind of its own. It's got its own agenda. It's basically trying to protect me. And it's going to be judging, labeling, and adding meaning to every single event in my life, every second I'm alive. Without exception, always does it 24/7. It just doesn't stop doing that. Its main role is to analyze what's going on, and is this good or is this bad? Can I survive or not, right? Does this make sense? Tell me what you think. And Comrade Yuri, I see some comments coming in. I see this is working now. I'm frustrated with my former high school classmates' lack of action and trying to improve their circumstances. I really definitely can appreciate watching people not being their highest level of themselves, knowing that there are things getting in the way, and not being able to directly change their behavior. Now, as a coach, I can feel like I can show up for people, but I have absolutely no say in what somebody actually does with our sessions and the insights that they may experience, whatever. I have absolutely no say in that, and that can be really frustrating. And at the same time, that's fine. That's beautiful. That's actually how it should be. I think so many of us, without realizing it, give up our power in so many different ways, like looking towards the outside source that's finally going to do it or save me or change things. That next guru or that next diet, doesn't matter. It's looking outside of ourselves. And it's all fine and good, but at the same time, we can give up our power. I can give up my power by, typical things like self-judging. Myself and what I want, what I think is possible. Do we get in our own way in some big ways, powerful ways that can stop us dead in our tracks from doing what we're here to do, right? It's amazing how powerful the mind is in mucking everything up. Whether we're dealing with people of this world, and I'm going to be a little insensitive for a quick second, but in a playful way, the nincompoops of the world, the delusional ones. We all are to varying degrees. Some of us know it, though, right? And that actually is the main point. That is the grand unifier for me, no matter who we are. And whether you are thinking about that other person on the other side, like in the world of politics, that other person who's crazy, who's insane, he's my enemy, he's my adversary. God, it's so easy to see that person as such. And we're well justified to do that on many levels. And at the same time, now this is going to be radical. Tell me what you think. Is this crazy? But here's what I think. On some level, we are all victims to the creations of our minds. The meaning that we place on things, the judgments, the labels, especially with ourselves, but also with others. The cruelty that we can ourselves, being nice people, good people, but still we can be so judgmental with others. It's amazing the power of the mind to judge. It's the number one problem on planet Earth. The mind is mucking with us. And it's so convincing, most of us don't even see it. And then those of us who really get it, that the mind really has such a huge say in how things go and how things are perceived, how things are talked about. And you can watch very quickly, especially in the world of politics or in any media form, how quickly messages and memes, belief systems, conclusions, explanations, why things are the way they are, how quickly they spread. You talk to people, their feelings about things in the world right now, and quite often you'll hear verbatim parroted phrases, and you can tell that person's mind is not necessarily thinking for themselves. They're just taking on other people's minds, interpretations. It's the world's hardest thing to talk about, though, the mind, because it's so convincing. And I like to call it the waking dream. When you're dreaming at night and you don't know it's not real until you wake up and you change your state. I say that identical, it's not a metaphor. This is like identical to what's happening to you right now in this very second, in the next second, in the next second. There's what's happening, and then my mind will interpret it, label it, judge it, and project its meaning that it's attributed to that thing going on into your everything. So that's all you can see. You're literally under hypnosis every second that we're alive based on your mind's reactions. Now, I don't know how that you're going to hear that. That might sound like devastating news, or you might strongly disagree. I would love to hear what you think. But if you take a close look, there's the you that has intentions. Like, for example, you've got a goal, objective, a business idea, a creative thing that you want to do, or you want to improve your life in some form or fashion. You've got the best intentions in the world. And yet, did you do it? Did it work out in the end? I don't know. In the world of dieting, it's like 98% of the people who go on a diet a year later are at the same weight or heavier. The mind has a mind of its own. It's got its own agenda. It does not care about my happiness. It does not recognize my awareness, my wisdom, whatever. It's got its own agenda. And the sooner I recognize that and can see it in the moment getting in the way, that's my journey for freeing myself up in my life. See how the mind is getting in the way. But here's the number one distinction for me, and it took me a decade to figure this out, that I can have the best intentions of changing my mind, but that will be met with failure with 100% certainty. And many, 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 many times. Because, again, the mind has a mind of its own. It doesn't care about what you want, what your intentions are. From time to time, based on a random trigger, the smell, look at somebody's face, or whatever. It's happening thousands of times throughout the day. The mind's going to get its conditioned response and meaning and past interpretation. It's going to get triggered, and it's going to put you inside of it just like a waking dream. And for the moment, you will forget what you know. And all you'll be able to see is what your mind is giving you. Identical to when you're dreaming at night. Now, do you see this? Do you agree with this? Disagree? I would love to hear from you. Comrade, are you saying that we're slaves to our instincts? Instincts and interpretations. I fell from 25 feet when I was skiing about 7 years ago now? And I broke 8 ribs, and I broke my hip in 9 different places. I was in a wheelchair for 4 months. And I could say that I could have been very likely a slave, a victim to those circumstances. And my instinct would be to react to that situation in a very negative way. I ended up doing the exact opposite. I was waiting for the helicopter on the ski slopes to pick me up. And as a coach for 20 years, I asked myself these crazy questions all the time. It's like, hey, what's the opportunity here? What can I do with this? And, so here I am. I got a bunch of broken bones, and I'm waiting for the helicopter, and I'm trying to ask these. It occurred to me, it's like, dude, this is a serious situation. You got to work with this. You got to get into that yes of it. You've got to turn this thing. I had the presence of mind at some point through the panic, through the uncertainty, because I couldn't move. Little did I know that one of the ribs had punctured my lung, and that my hip was dislocated, and that's why I couldn't straighten out or breathe. So in the midst of the panic, at one point I realized, like, wait a minute, this is it right now. How can you work with this situation? And I was able to calm down. When I heard the blades of the helicopter above me, the little kid in me came out. And actually, this is going to sound crazy. I got excited. And my first thought was, oh my gosh, I've always wanted to go on a helicopter ride. So that was my first, what I call reframe, where I have to, there's what's going on, and then there's my response to it. When I crashed, my response obviously is going to be, oh no, and rightly so. But the sooner I can get grounded and calm and clear, my survival can depend on my ability to do that at times. So I turn everything into a game. I say, okay, how do I get into the yes? This sucks, this is scary, but it is what it is. How can I respond to it right now? You know, if you're in the midst of a fire coming your way, like in California or Oregon or whatever, I have to be able to be calm and clear so I know what the hell to do. If I panic, right? If I'm what I call being in the no of what's going on, I can't think straight, right? So this ability is not just a small thing I'm talking about, especially right now with the politics and all that's going on in the world, that unsettled, deeply unsettled feeling. It behooves me to have the skill of, here's what's going on. Now, how can I get into the yes? And when I say getting into the yes of something, I don't mean I like it or accept it or that this is okay. What I simply mean is, it is what's happening right now. Don't fight it. Go with it, because that's the best chance that we'll have to either survive the moment and ultimately maybe even turn into something good. That's what I was saying earlier. It's like this year in some ways has been the best year of my life. It's given me more clarity and a sense of boldness to, you know what, Carl, don't hide. Don't hide anymore. I mean, I've done 1,300 lives now, so I'm not hiding. But I've been still hiding. I've been still playing it safe. Oh, yes, I have been, and I recognize that. Because I don't want to hear any bad things from people. I don't want people to diss me. I'm afraid of putting my shit out there sometimes. So all that's going on this year, it's like, all right, man, what can you do with this? How is it? What's the opportunity here? Because within every crisis there is. So let's find it. Let's create it. Let's create it. And so in my coaching, we're with entrepreneurs, visionaries, creatives, you know, they're holding back too. And sometimes years, like myself. I've been working my life as a wave work for, oh my gosh, since 1997. And yeah, I do these lives every single day, but you know what? I'm still hiding. Damn it. That's a tricky thing. I'm on camera for crying out. I used to not be willing to be on camera. I was the shyest kid growing up you'd ever imagine. And when I was coaching, and then people would say, you know, on Zoom, and if you say, well, where? I can't see you. I would lie. I would say webcam's broken. So, okay, great. I can be seen now. I'm 100% comfortable, which I never thought was possible. But am I still hiding? Yeah, I am. I've been playing it safe. How about you? You know, if there was ever a time, I swear to God, really, I love paradox. It's one of my favorite concepts. If there was ever a time to do your thing, whatever that happens to be, wouldn't it be this year? Wouldn't it be this year? Wouldn't it be? It's like, what the hell do you got to lose? Number one. The shit's crazy already. Well, why not get a little crazy yourself? Get a little extra sense of boldness and just put the freaking thing out there. Whatever that is. You know? So that's a very real way where a crisis and a bunch of effed up stuff going on in this world right now, and the politics, oh my God, the intensity that's going to be building over the next couple of months, right? Please do yourself a favor. Yes, I'm going to allow myself to get reactive. Like, I'm going to be watching the debate tonight for a little bit. I will dip in. My eyes are wide open. But whenever given a chance, I put things outside of the context of politics. That is a game I do not accept. If somebody asks me, are you Democrat or Republican? I say neither. Oh, you're independent. I say, no, I'm not. Oh, well, you're with this, that. No, I'm not. Well, you have to be one of them. I said, do I? No, I don't. Because the very instant I say, yes, I'm an independent or whatever, you think you're going to know me. And oh, no, you don't. And I don't know you based on your label. But my mind will think that I know you. Because again, the mind's agenda is only, can I survive this moment? Am I safe? And it's going to look at you. If you've got a different color flag or shirt or whatever, you're the other side. You're the team. You're my enemy. You're a threat. Come on. Come on. It's hard work though, man. I'm doing my best because I do have some family members who are on the other side. First of all, there is no other side. If you dive deep, you find out we human beings are all in this together, literally on this blue ball in the middle of freaking nowhere. And we all have our individual beliefs and stuff like that of how and why and what the hell. But in the end, we are literally in this together. And in the midst of catastrophes and crises and global challenges, it is an opportunity for us to finally wake up to that, at least for a moment. It's like, holy shit, no, we really are. It's not just a philosophical, feel-good, fluffy notion. So no, people, let's wake up a little bit here. Let's grow up, in effect. You know, if we've been able to create road traffic signals, red light means stop and green means go, and this pathway, and you stay on the right side and the left side or whatever. And doesn't matter our politics or the color of our pigment on our skin or anything. No, we just came up with a foundation where we can all get along and all get to where we're needing to get to, right? And I know that we can create this in this world, and we need to. But it starts with, as far as I'm concerned, is knowing that there's a difference between what happens and then my mind's reaction. And number two, and this is just as important, if not more important, and please try to do this tonight if you're watching the debates, or next time you see your uncle, your whoever who's on the other side, right? See if you can find and think of 5 to 10 different things that you have in common. Starting with, you both breathe oxygen. You both are afraid of dying, we'll assume. And I just went out of focus. They come back? Yeah. All right. What else do we have in common with every single human being, no matter if they're good or bad, right or wrong, rich or poor, whatever? We breathe oxygen. We are all mortal beings. We have a sense of uncertainty with what it's all about and whatnot. Even in our deep convictions, it's like, we really don't know. We all want health, fundamentally, peace, happiness, food on the table, shelter. I mean, you go on for an hour. Things that we all have in common. So what's more real? The fact that that person identified themselves and they listened to a particular political station on TV, and that's all they're getting it from, and you're like thinking, they're crazy. What the hell? They're delusional. How can they think this and all this stuff? And you're right. You're right. And the grand equalizer is, oh, I'm delusional too, because I have a mind that's constantly projecting its interpretations, meaning, judgments, labels, assumptions, explanations, and on and on and on and on. That's why I call it the waking dream. It's very convincing. And I say that's the only problem on planet Earth. There's only one. People's minds are mucking with them, and we're believing it. So question those conclusions from time to time. Question what you think about that person on the other side, and reawaken to the fact that no, wait a minute. Is this real? Like, do we really have a lot in common? Are we all just trying our best on some level? And do we all have minds that are mucking with us? Yes, and yes, and yes, and yes, and yes, and yes. And you know this, right? We know this. But as soon as we put it in like a certain context called politics, no. That's why whenever possible, I will take it outside the context of politics and say, put in the context of human being. That other person right there that is being perceived by my mind as an adversary, they're doing their best. They know not what they do, even if they do. Even if you know what you're doing, your mind's going to mess with you. Next time you get angry, next time you get sad, next time you say you're going to do something and then you don't. I mean, there are hundreds of examples where you're going to have the best of intentions, but your mind is going to have its own agenda. And I recommend making it about your mind, not you. There's a difference. Because when you do, then you don't have to keep beating yourself up or making it about character. I'm a good person, bad person. That's a judgment model. I just put that aside. I just assume on some level we all are just trying to do our best in this thing called life. We all want to move, grow, expand, thrive, whatever that means for us. That's the grand unifiers, right? But the mind is going to muck with every single one of us to varying degrees. That too is the grand equalizer. So at some level, yeah, I'm able to say, yeah, we're all doing our best with what we think we know is real. But man, what is real? Whoo, one of the most difficult questions you can ever answer. So in answering that question, because that is my number one pursuit. What's the realest real? I looked at nature, because nature doesn't have an agenda, whereas human beings do. They care about. It's like, I care what you think. Yeah, am I trying to convince you guys on some level? Yes, absolutely. But I know it, admit it, and hopefully it's some good shit to hook into. So nature, love, science, measurable, tangible stuff. Yes. Common sense and common denominator kind of thinking. That we are all in this together kind of thing, not as a fluffy notion, but as the hardcore statement of fact. Yeah. Yeah, these perspectives really change and help me make it through another day and maybe even thrive. So I see a bunch of comments, man. So are you saying that we are slaves to our instincts? I hooked into that. I say yes and no. All right. And I would say more accurately, the instincts, I would say our mind's interpretations in the moment, because it's happening moment to moment. It's not a static thing. Right? Next time you're walking down the sidewalk and you see somebody for the first time, watch how your mind projects based on the color of the skin, their appearance, or whatever. The mind will recognize, oh, I've seen that person before. Oh, that's a good person because they're dressed a certain way or whatever. Just watch how the mind plays with you. And then we'll go along with that assumption, conclusion, decision, choice that it made in the moment. Watch. I hope that you recovered well. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Yeah. You know what? The ski accident was one of the best things that ever happened to me. Because it woke me up to like, oh my God, I'm alive and I like it. My doctor every day would tell me, Carl, you're lucky to be alive. Most people who fall from 20 feet will, on a sheet of ice, will be dead or paralyzed. Another great thing is that I started exercising every day because I still have physical challenges. And I turned exercise into a game, celebration of movement. Music, got my headset on, I'm dancing, singing, lifting weights, hula hooping, drumming. And it reframed my whole thing, what it is to move my body on a daily basis. And I think it's like 2,300 days in a row. I haven't missed since then. So I'm very grateful for that ski accident. It really set the stage for some really massive, wonderful movement in my life. I never want to have it happen again, of course, but there you go. I seem very comfortable. Would have thought you would have that anxiety. Yeah. I spent most of my life not being able to ask girls out. I spent most of my life, even though I pursued music for 30 years, jazz guitar, drumming, but I couldn't get my ass on stage. And most of some of it came from cognitive abilities and issues I've had with memory, dyslexia, ADD, and a Tourette syndrome like thing when trying to express myself with music. Basically, I used to have, until I came up with my own solution, and still have, but I'm able to not have what I call a stutter, a flow stutter when playing music. It's changed my world for that. I used to not be able to sing, now I can. I used to not be able to dance, now I can. I used to not be able to drum or play guitar without 100 mistakes, and now I can. It's a daily progress thing, but man, I'm so grateful. So, yeah. So what else you got? I really appreciate your comments. Where are you from, by the way, and where are you listening from? Are you on YouTube or Facebook? I'm simulcasting to a number of things right now. But you say we will always find a way to divide one another. Yeah, because of the perceived other. And that's why my discipline is whenever I get a chance. Because you know what? I'll allow my mind to hate on the others. I'll allow it. I will not stop it necessarily. I'll put the brakes on it. I won't necessarily interrupt the pattern, but what I will do is I'll become the observer. It's like, oh, I just noticed my mind is like really hating on those people right now. And I notice my heart's beating and I notice I'm frustrated. I know I'm itchy in my chair. And I hear the conversation in my head. How can that person think that? Were they nuts? Were they crazy? Come on. All that stuff. Again, the mind has a mind of its own. I know that. And for the rest of my life, my mind will mess with me. And then I realized, you know what? That's not a problem, actually. It's going to sleep, waking up, going to sleep, waking up. Being under the influence of one's own triggered response versus, oh yeah, right, okay, wake up. I've come up with, I think, about 36 different what I call wave tools, ways to entice the mind to wake up. And that's what I do. I've got a mobile app called Coach on Demand that I'm working on, a membership site that we're going to be doing, launching this fall. It's a culmination of 25 years of work with this Life is a Wave thing where I bring science, nature, and music together to help, again, free up the mind. Because to me, that is the essential thing on planet Earth. And I want to get on top of a mountain sometimes with the hugest megaphone I could ever imagine. Say, world, please, could you just stop for 1 second? Your mind, sorry, but your mind is fucking with you. Please, from time to time, question some of the conclusions and the things that you believe and think. And I'm not talking about big beliefs or core values. I'm not talking about, I'm just saying the conclusions that the mind has come up with about ourselves, about other people. Are you sure about that? Is it 100% true? Is it always true? Are there other truths that can happen at the same? I mean, to find out what's real, it's actually a fairly nuanced and rich thing. To find out what's true, it turns out there's a lot of paradoxes. And plus, the mind has a tendency to think in terms of or. Either this is true or that's true. So what I do is whenever I notice that kind of thinking, I just erase or and I put the word and. This can be true and this can be also true at the same time, even though they seem to contradict one another. That's why I think that everybody needs to be able to see, understand, and recognize paradox. I think that's how the mind is developing. So, number one problem on planet Earth, the mind is messing with us, and the vast majority of us don't know it, just like being in a waking dream. And then when we do realize that the mind has many illusions and perceptions and judgments, and that they will always appear to be real, now we can begin to play. And I have so much say in my life when I realize that I'm a victim to the creations of my mind. Paradoxically, I don't have to change it. I can actually play with it. I can invent new intentions. Like when I had the ski accident, I had the ability to gamify that experience. Like, hey, what do I like about this? What can I do with this? What's the opportunity here? And by the time that helicopter took me to the hospital, I had a list of 30 things. And it really helped my recovery tremendously. But I'm willing to be delusional because I know that I already am. That's the beautiful thing. And I'll end with this, and I thank you guys for watching and for commenting. It means the world to me. Really need to grow my audience. I've done 1,300 of these lives, and my audience is still tiny because until recently, I haven't been advertising. I've been hiding. Well, it's time to get the word out there. And so starting next week, we're going to be doing Facebook advertising towards these lives, and let's grow this audience. So if you like it, any of this content, please do let people know. I'm just a dude who has worked with his mind and his cognitive glitches and took what he learned from music, from nature, and from electrical engineering, and came up with this thing called Life is a Wave that's helped my mind get into flow and some fluency. Oh gosh, if you could only see me when I was a kid, stuttering and stammering and tripping over myself. And I still do from time to time, but still, this is unscripted. And the fact that I can just talk off the cuff and not stammer and stutter, it's still a daily miracle for me. So again, thank you for watching, especially Comrade Yuri. Thank you so much for your comments. This is from YouTube, and you subscribe to the channel. Thank you. I think you might be my first subscriber. How exciting! Yeah, we're just getting started on YouTube. And if you guys have any ideas of topics and things to cover, or any ideas of how to get the word out, oh man, I'm all ears. Thanks again for watching, guys. Love you all. Life is good no matter what, so enjoy the ride, bumps and all. Oh, God, please. Yes. Get in the yes of what's going on. Because it is what it is. And, this is going to sound cold, but I don't mean it to be cold. It's like, you know what? There's what is, and then how I want things to be, or how my mind wants things to be. And if they aren't the way I need them to be, or my mind needs them to be, well, too bad. Too bad. Okay. It is what is happening right now. If I push against it, resist it, say, no, this cannot be, I cannot respond to it. But if I can say, holy shit, this is scary stuff. Okay. Just like a huge wave coming, I can stare at it and it's going to crash on my ass, or say, all right, here's this big ugly thing. Now, where do I want to go? I got to ride this wave somehow. I have to do it. Turn. Where am I going? What are my intentions? What's the opportunity? What can I do with this? And there are always answers. 100% of the time, no matter what. 100% of the time, there's always opportunity within every single situation without exception. Boy, that might be a bold, delusional statement, but I'll stick to it. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll be back tomorrow. See ya.